Hello, and I'm not going to say good morning or good evening because I don't know what time you're going to be watching this. But I want to tell you about some experiences that led to great prosperity for me, great peace, and wonderful health. When I was 74 and a half years old, I don't know if I want to tell you how many years ago that was or not. I had to go back to work if I wanted a home. I had sold my home and gone to educate my youngest daughter to help her take care of her children and things. And when I came back, I've always known that anything you've once had that's good, God will always give you again. So I decided it was time for me to get another home. I was a registered RN, and I went to work for a hospice company. The first time I went to see a patient, the depression, you could have cut it with a knife. My heart was breaking for them. And so I talked to God. I said, Father, help me find a way to help these people. So I started by giving them a daily devotional book to read. And I would tell them a joke or two every time I came in that was appropriate. And they caught on real quick. And soon I had some patients that were even taken off the service. Positive thought. And I also told them that life is forever and not to be afraid. That we're just, when we die, we just go into a new experience. Well, I have been a very spiritual person for a long time. I do 40-day meditation sessions where I usually have a cleansing diet and I do a lot of meditation. 40 is the number for a breakthrough metaphysically. It's spiritual growth, in other words. Well, I had worked at hospice for 4.5 years, and I had bought a lovely condominium. I had paid all my bills, and I decided it was time to retire and do volunteer work and some of the things I'd always dreamed of doing. So, when I first told the company I was going to retire, they said, oh, wait a little while. Some of the girls, the other nurses, want to take a vacation. I said, okay. And that was in January of 2007. I was 79. And comes the 1st of February, and I again said I'm going to retire. And they said, oh no, we've got some things coming up. You just can't retire yet. So I came back and I said, on February the 15th, I am retiring, and that is it. And they said, well, wouldn't you work part-time? And I said, okay, but that's it. So I had been doing one of my 40-day meditation periods. And I asked God, I told him, I said, Father, I just figured out when I make my house payment and my car payment, I have $25 a month left for gas and food. Well, I had saved about $4,000. And I said, you take over. And when that's gone, well, you'll find a way to help me. I know you will. And I went ahead and retired. On February the 16th, and I had just finished my 40-day meditation period, a gentleman that was doing some financial maneuvering for me called and said, I have more papers for you to sign. And I said, well, I can't come to you today. I'm doing a garage sale with my daughter. She needs help. He said, I'll bring it to you. And when he came, he gave me a check for $240,000. And it was good. It cost me $1 to get that check. And I won't go into all the details because it was a business venture. I was very thankful. The first check I wrote out was my tithe check. And I tithed 11% because I was pretty grateful. And I also decided I would share with the public what I did for the financial abundance. And I wrote Powers for Overflowing Abundance. Well, I taught classes on this, and whatever people wanted, whether it was a husband or money, seemed to crop into their lives after they started this 40-day plan. I am going to share some of the things in my book. One of the powers is forgiving. If you're holding grudges, you're blocking the flow of God's good. And when you don't forgive, you're impeding yourself. I was real hard on myself. I would think of some of the things of the past and really chastise myself. So I had to work on forgiving myself. And that was the first power I worked on because I was weak in it. The next power is the one that most people are weak on. It's the power of tithing. Many people say to me, well, where in the Bible does it say you have to tithe? In Malachi, Malachi, chapter 3, verse 10, it says, "Bring the full tithe into the storehouse, so that there may be food in my house, and test me now in this, says the Lord of hosts, if I will not open for you the windows of heaven and pour out for you a blessing until there is no more need." Why wasn't there more in the Bible about tithing? The Bible was the history of the Jews, the Old Testament. The Jews were born into tithing. No matter what they got, they tithed 10%. It was just taken for granted. But this is the one verse that the Father actually told us what His law is. Now I'm going to tell you a story about how I started tithing. And so long ago, I can't remember if I was 8 years old or 9 years old. And my mother came to me, and I was a depression baby. And she said, "I'm going to give you an allowance of 10 cents a week. Now you have to tithe a penny of that." I said, "Well, what's tithing?" And she said, "It's giving God money." "How do I do that?" And she said, "You can choose church or Sunday school." And naturally, I chose Sunday school. Well, I didn't mind that at all. I was tickled pink to have that much money. In those days, a penny bought all kinds of stuff. Years ago. Well, I was forced by my dear sweet mother, and I do love her. I love her for making me tithe or telling me about it. She made me wear these horrible cotton socks that went clear up. I mean up. And I hated them. None of the other kids wore them. They had pretty little anklets. So when I got 2 or 3 blocks from the house, I just rolled those socks down and stuck them through a fence under some bushes and went on to school without any socks. And this was in Oklahoma, where it snows and the wind howls. And I'm coming home one day to get my socks, and the snow was melting, and I couldn't find them. And I looked, and there is this big German Shepherd chewing on my socks. I was absolutely tearful. I ran to the front door, and I told the lady, crying, "Your dog has my socks and won't give them to me. I said, 'Here, nice puppy.'" So she went out and she called me in, and I was crying again. We had a terrible punishment. Mom made us kneel on beans uncooked for anything we did that was bad, very painful. So she got me a glass of milk, a cookie, and brought back the socks. And they were a little worse for wear. And she washed them and dried them in front of her oven. Her name was Mrs. Clemens. I'll never forget her. And she said, I don't have any girls. I had 2 boys that are grown. How would you like to be my girl for a while, and you can come over every Saturday and scrub my kitchen floor, and I'll give you 25 cents. Wow! That was a big increase in income. I said, oh, I love it. So she said, give me your phone number. I'll have to call your mother to see if it's okay. Well, it was okay. Mrs. Clemens. I ran home, and when I got there, I said, Mama, Mama, tithing really works. And I felt that way about it ever since. Tithing has gotten me through some very rough spots. When I was 26, I divorced an alcoholic husband who was very brutal, not just to me, but to my children. And he left the state. And in those days, they left the state, they were home free. So I had to support 3 children. And God was so good to me. I always had something happen whenever there was a real terrific need. One time I'd saved money for an air conditioner. I was living in Scottsdale. And when Sears came out with the air conditioner, they said, we can't put that in. You don't have the right box. That you don't have enough juice for this kind of air. You've got to do some rewiring. And I said, well, I guess it's another year until I get the air conditioner. And I told the kids, we'll just save more. We will. About 2 weeks later, lightning hit the fuse box in the house, and my insurance covered having it replaced. And I have had crazy things like that happen to me all my life. The $240,000, I paid off my condo, and I started doing all kinds of volunteer work that I've always wanted to do. I'm an active optimist that helps women that are underprivileged to achieve education. I'm active in a church group, and I am a minister. I became a minister when I was working for hospice, and so I could do baptisms and also do other things that normal nurses don't do. But when you tithe, your income will increase. It just works. It's magic. My next power, well, the other 5 powers, you're going to have to get a copy of the book to get them. The book is $20, and you can send to the address that is on this little talk. And we have some other wonderful ministers here that give you jewels of information. We also have some wonderful prayers. People that pray for your prayer requests, and there is giant power in prayer. So have a wonderful life, and I wish you the very best of everything. Thank you.